Welcome to the Building Men podcast. Building Men is geared toward helping you become the strongest version of yourself, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and physically. Today, I am joined by none other than Ian Demello. Ian is the founder of Catalyst Creator. He is a mindset and movement coach. He's an MC. He's a motivational speaker. He's a badass dancer. He's from Perth, Australia. So Ian and I connected over the last maybe week or so, and I just met him today. Ian, today is the first time that we met each other. So welcome to the Building Men podcast, brother. I'm so happy for you to be here.
Man, I am super stoked to be here as well. So thank you for reaching out. Thanks for connecting. Let's go, bro.
Absolutely. So you're in Perth, Australia. So I'm in on the east coast of New Jersey, and I'm just the time stamp for it's like May 18th in Perth right now, right? You're like a month and a half ahead of us or something. We were trying to figure out the time frame. So it's night.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's 9:18 p.m. right now.
Okay. So give us a little bit. So after we were introduced to one another. I follow along with everything you're doing, and you have this really interesting story about your identity, your background, how you kind of came to where you are right now. So just give us a little bit of information about kind of where you started and how you got to this spot where you are now as this, mindset and movement coach and motivational speaker.
Yeah, man, dope. Shizzle. So my parents came here. I was born and raised in Perth, Australia. They are originally from Singapore. So I'm Eurasian. So I'm a mix of Portuguese and Asian. That's what it means. So yeah, that's, I guess, my identity, my racial profile. In regards to me as a dancer, my family home was like the party house. We held my cousins' parties or birthdays at our house, and there was always music playing, there was always dancing. So I always enjoyed, funk, disco, soul, jazz. My dad used to listen to, my mom used to listen to, Bread and Simply Red and all that stuff. So, a mixture of things. And I just loved music. And then, listening to music, it led me to dancing, which was the funk era and stuff like that. And then my older brother, he was listening to hip hop, and I found hip hop at around the age of 10. And I was just blown away by the rawness of it and how, I don't know, it just had this energy that really resonated with me. And, at the time it was compilation CDs. So like mixtapes, but like the actual CDs, bro, like the compact discs. My cousin was a DJ. So he used to actually scratch and everything. And he used to make these compilations, and he gave one to me when I was like 10. And that was my first thing. I was like, it was like the holy grail,
Yeah.
So put it together. I heard my brother play some stuff, and I was just blown away. So moving forward, I just fell in love with hip hop, ended up finding out that there were dances to hip hop. I was like, what is this going on here? It's like a whole culture, graffiti, music, DJing, MCing, the b-boying. So I got into dancing. At that time too, or even before that, I was listening to Michael Jackson, and I always saw him dance. And I was just like dumbfounded by how amazing he was, right? As an entertainer. And I used to just try and copy his stuff. So that's what got me into dancing. My parents always had the groove. My brother used to dance to an MJ. And then fast forward again, I got into, I feel like a lot of teenagers go through this phase of like just being, wanting to be hard and like that gangster, So I used to dress up super baggy clothes, even freaking do rags, and just copy, And that's when I got into crip walking and freestyling. So my brother used to teach me how to moonwalk, how to glide, and then it went into freestyle movement. And then from freestyle movement, I found Krump dancing when I was 15. My sister came home one day, and she was just like, yo, you got to watch this documentary. and it was Rise. If you haven't watched it, go check it out. It's the rawest shit you'll ever see in your life. And that's what captivated me again, was the same age, like young kids, 15, 16, 17, just like going hard at this Krump thing. And I was just blown away by how much expression was there. And at the time, my parents were going through, their little hardship, and they ended up, splitting. And that obviously had a major effect on me. And I'm still working through how deep that is. And yeah, man, Krump was the thing that held me, that supported me, that helped me speak a language that I didn't know how to vocalize.
And so
And
how would you describe for the listeners to be able to understand what Krump is? It was something I wasn't quite sure. I had to watch a couple of your videos. And
yeah,
I mean, and I say this with all due respect and
yeah,
gracious. Like I thought of like the scarecrow from like Wizard of Oz, kind of like where the way that he moves, it's like there's not bones in his body. It's like this like Gumby kind of movement. I was like, I don't understand how a human being can move in this way as
right,
I
right,
watched
right.
you. And I'm thinking like, should have I tried that? I mean, I would be on the couch for 4 days straight with bags of ice, and like, you know what I mean, a ton of Motrin. It hurt
Yeah.
me watching it, but I was like so inspired
Mhm.
by the movement. So explain to us a little bit how would
Yeah,
you explain Krump dancing in a couple sentences?
yeah, for sure, bro. So just real quick, touching on you, like speaking of the scarecrow, there's an
Yeah.
actual dance move that's called the scarecrow in hip hop. Like I'm pretty sure it's a style, is that right? Or is it a move? It's a move. Yeah, okay. Um, and yeah, so going back to your actual question about what Krump actually is for the people that are listening, oh, there's so many definitions. The one that I really resonate with, not necessarily on like what it is as a physical thing, right? But as a modality of connection to oneself and the energy that we are around us, the spirit, whatever you want to call it, God, universe, whatever, is it's raw emotion expressed passionately. That's what Krump is. And maybe it is like Krump is also a style of movement, right? It is a style of dance, but that's like what I just explained is the essence of what Krump is. Yeah.
So it's as you said that I kind of thought of for me before I train. I'll put on music, I have my headphones on, I'm kind of by myself, I kind of get in this zone. And before I start, I'm like, I kind of pump myself up a little bit. So there's some kind of movement in there. I think if people saw me go through this little routine, I mean, I could probably sell tickets as like a comedy, show for people to actually see the shit that I'm doing as I kind of get myself like pumped up, ready to train. But it kind of motivates me. And it's this thing of this, you said raw emotion expressed passionately. That's
Mm-hmm.
part of what I'm doing. I'm not doing the same
Right.
thing that you're doing, obviously, but it gets me into this mindset where like it's this like raw kind of guttural like feel where I'm
Yep.
like, all right, I can fucking do whatever's in front of me right now. And so that's what
Yeah.
I'm kind of hearing a little bit. That's kind of the larger philosophical view behind what Krump is, and then there's more of like more of a tactic dance move that goes along with it. Correct?
Yeah, totally. It's a Krump is its own entity. Like it really is. And there's a whole culture behind it, like another dope, like we've been, me and my partner, because she dances too and she's a Krump dancer too, and we always have these conversations about what Krump actually is. And I was speaking to a friend who, who's gone through Landmark, who's gone through Tony Robbins and stuff, and he was speaking about, being at a Tony Robbins seminar and feeling all the energy, and how there was an exercise that he had to do, which was like closing your eyes, and then everyone in the room, like thousands of people, just close their eyes, and Tony Robbins is just saying to him like, you're a piece of shit. and he's just like going really deep with them, right? Like that was his process. And when we finished the dinner, me and my partner said, Krump is literally that as well. Like we have things in Krump that will break you down. Like we go into a battle, for example, or a cage, that's what it's called in Krump, to break people down, break so that they can break through their barrier, their limiting beliefs of, you know, how hard they can go, how creative they can be, how much they can push, like emotionally, spiritually, like everything is in Krump that, you know, these gurus like the, you know, how there's new age spirituality and they do all the rituals, the cacao ceremonies, all that shit. We've been doing it, you know, like through Krump, and it's like a subconscious thing. So for me, it's like connecting movement in a way that not just Krump, just movement in general, like that raw shit. I love rawness, you know, allowing, like facilitating that space for men, because we need that, man. You know, like for you, like you need to get into that mode,
Yeah.
right? And I know that you can tap in just like that to whatever energy that is, you know? And it's important that we find that for ourselves.
So I would think that one of your biggest challenges would be I'm kind of putting myself into a position where, all right, so say I'm working with you, there's all these like hangups that men have. I mean, some people are totally comfortable just getting out on the dance floor and doing whatever, but people are so worried about how they're perceived by other people. So you get in your
Right.
own way, you set up this kind of shield or this block or this
Mm-hmm.
barricade. You're not able to fully experience a lot of shit in your life because people are worried about how they're judged by the people. I know I lived in that space for such a long time where
Mm-hmm.
I based my identity around how I thought other people saw me. And I
Yeah.
was living in this like space. I was like, what the fuck was I doing for such a long time? Who am I? I was finally looking in the mirror, like, all right, what are you about? What
Yeah.
are you about right now? And
Yeah.
so I think about that. And I also think about like it just brought me back to like being in middle school, you know, when there's like the
Mm-hmm.
dancing going on in the middle and the boys are kind of standing against the wall with their arms crossed, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
listen, MC Hammer, you can't touch this is on. I could probably get out there and do the running man, you know, maybe that was probably the only dance I could do really like that
Yeah.
I could,
Yeah.
could do with any kind of fidelity was the running man when I was in middle school.
Right.
But
That's a dope move, bro. It's everybody still does it now, man.
maybe I
For
could
real.
bring it back one day.
Yeah, man.
So
Yeah,
I would assume that that would be part of it. Is not only is it teaching the you know, like connecting to that universal kind of component out there, the
definitely.
physical part of it, but then also this shedding of your shit is probably a big part of what you're doing when you're working with people.
Yeah, it's huge. And I think it's challenging to market it like that because it's intimidating as shit. Like people see Krump and even hear the word Krump and they're like, nope, no Krump for me. Thank you. It's too hard. It's too this, too that. And my what I'm doing with like my TikToks and what I'm going to continue doing is breaking down Krump so that, and the movement of it, right? So that it's simple, it's understandable. You actually can see physically what I'm doing when I dance, you know, because for me, there's a difference between a mover and a dancer, especially when it comes to style, right?
Right.
Um, and the more people become aware of anything, of themselves, of their thoughts, their feelings, that's when there's understanding. That's when healing can happen and all of the things. So yeah, for me, just connecting the dots and being there for men and women to just be like, yo, damn, I feel like I can Krump right now. I'm going to try it in my own space, in my own time, and just be like, damn, this feels good. You know, that's my goal. And then from there, you know, slowly bring in the peoples that will actually, that are ready to, you know, openly work with me and just explore their being and become real dancers. Because, you know, at the end of the day, I believe that everything And yeah, everything and anything is dancing. Like an atom vibrates, and to me that's dancing, you know. So, and it's an awesome tool to, you know, tap into different parts of yourself emotionally, and even what you want to be, your past self. Like, bro, there's so much, man.
Yeah. And just
So much.
through conversation, I've learned so much. I'm almost thinking too about being able to, once you can step outside of that comfort zone that you're living in. I honestly believe that most of the positive things that are happening in our lives are when we finally take that risk to step even just a little bit outside of our comfort zone, and when we
Yep.
realize, shit, that didn't kill me. Then you're okay to take another little step outside of your comfort zone until you're finally ready to take the big leap outside of the comfort zone. So I'm almost thinking,
Right.
once people start this and they kind of can get into this space where, you know what, I can kind of just let go. I'm sure people go through this and there's probably like an emotional release for a lot of people. I'm kind of thinking about going through this myself. Like, if I were to do something like this, just the shit that I've been carrying for so long, when you could just like release that shit in a physical kind of way, there's probably
Yeah.
some crying that goes along with it when people do it, like a lot of
Mhm.
like just outpour of emotion.
So much, bro. Like, if I can send you some links later, just of how rowdy is the word for me. Krump dancing is. The culture is like, if you watch our footage or you don't watch it and I'm watching it, it's just like, wow, and there's so much noise going on, you know, and you're like, what the heck is going on here? And it's just the hype. That's what we call it. It's the support network that's around you to get you to the place of bliss, of like that actual freedom. And like, sometimes you'll see someone pushing so much in their dance round, that you have to be there for that person, you know. And yeah, going back to your point about the so much emotions being moved around, 100%, bro.
Yeah.
100%. Like, we just, like, you know, ancient tribes use dance for war, healing, weather, death, life, all of that. We do the same thing. Like, one of my homies, rest in love to him, passed away 2 weeks ago, I think, about 10 days ago, from New Zealand. And what we do is use, like, we show our emotion and our thing through Krump dance. Like, yeah, you can do that with every other dance, but there's just something about Krump that makes people go, ugh, I feel that so much. Like, I feel all of you in it.
Yeah.
Because you have to be 100% vulnerable in it. Well, work your way up to that, you know, because everything's a journey. And even for me, I've been doing this since I was 15. There's always more, right? That's just human nature. There's always more to grow and be and do all that. But yeah, man, I personally have made people vomit, cry, scream, shout, like, you
Yeah.
name it.
That needs to be on your business card. That needs to be
Yeah. And it's, you know, it's all in the name of love, bro. It's for
absolutely.
real, all in the name of love, man.
Well, here's the thing that I've learned too, is that I think people want to be pushed and they want to be challenged and they want someone to hold them accountable. It's
Yeah.
just, you know, the first step is like asking for that help, or like really
Yeah.
first reaching out. There's probably a million people that are taking a look at what you're doing and are just kind of hanging back a little bit. Like, they just need
Yeah.
that little boost of confidence to be able to get to that point. You mentioned the word vulnerability, and I think that was so interesting. My journey in building men, from the time that I started until now, I realized was to really define what masculinity is. And
Mm.
one of the things that I've learned is that, you know, part of my own definition has to do with this balancing act that we have to do. Like, there needs to be a level of vulnerability balanced
Mm-hmm.
by this level of strength and assertiveness and confidence, but they have to kind of balance each other out. You can't be this like cocky asshole, and you can't
Yeah.
be this like kind of, you know, like where you just kind of cower in the corner, but you have to be able to
Right.
show your emotion, but do it in a really
Totally.
an authentic way. So if I were to
Yeah.
ask you to kind of, if you were to, sum up your thoughts around masculinity, especially based on your journey that you've gone on and how you've seen how the movement piece works, as far as, men are concerned, how would you define masculinity?
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
it's a big question, right? And I'm still trying to define it. Every day I
It's a
change my.
huge question, bro. It's a huge question because um even recently it's really been in my space. So, and reason being because I'm more of a I have more feminine energetics to my being than I do masculine.
And it's a
But
balance, right? And that's what I've learned too. There's definitely this yin and the yang that happens within all of us. All of us have masculine and feminine energy.
yeah, 100%, bro. What keeps me in my masculine is structure, training, feeling that like strength, basically, that stability, like, yeah, I can hold myself type
Yeah.
thing. But what masculinity is to me, I would say that it is power, strength, and transparency. That's what I think masculinity is. To put it as like, I can obviously extend the answer, but in 3 words, that's what I think masculinity is. And transparency is extremely important in masculinity because that's sort of the gateway to the feminine, the gateway to the emotional feeling. You know what I mean?
I love that. And what you just inspired me to do is the question I'm going to ask every single guest moving forward is define masculinity in 3 to 5 words. Because that's really challenging. We can talk about it forever, but to be able to do it in a really succinct way, where it gets you thinking about it a little bit. So that'll be part of every time I interview someone.
Hell yeah, bro. That's dope.
Be part of it. So thank you for
That's
that.
dope.
And as you were talking about, as you kind of got into Krump and what it looks like, sounds like, feels like, I'm also interested in that. You really painted a picture where I kind of felt like I was able to experience it with you or go along this journey. But one thing that kind of stuck in my head was you mentioned like getting in the cage or something like that. And I'm picturing like a movie like Pitch Perfect or like Bring It On, or like where there's like this like hardcore dance battle, like the cage closes and there's like your enemy is across from you and you're like, or like Eminem and 8 Mile where you're like having this rap battle with someone. That's what I picture.
Bro, it's pretty much that. So a cage is like, so imagine you on the street, a car park, empty car park, right? You have a car behind you with some sounds playing. There's 10 people there. You're about to dance and you're battling the 10 people. They're all against you, trying to do like, whoop your butt and get the best out of you and make sure that you push and, really give it your all. That's what a cage is.
And so, I mean, it's just, you're not like, there's not like a winner there, right? It's not like, you come out with the belt and like, all right, I'm the fucking Krump champ. No, but it's more just like this experiential community that is built there. So much of what I've learned over the last year as well is that people are really longing for this community feel, this relational feel that we've, due to the last year and the pandemic, people lost a lot of those connections with other people. So whenever we can find opportunities for community, I'm all for that. So that's what I see. That initially I thought it was like the cage slam shut. All of a sudden there's this dude standing across from you that like he has a bandana on backwards, and but it makes sense what you're saying. It's more of this people that are pushing you to be the best you that you can be through the physical movement.
Yeah, totally, bro. And I think this is where I feel people don't really go, is like in Krump anyway. And I'm just speaking in the street dance scene, like they're so focused on the movement, right? And being good in dance and pushing in the dance. But then when it comes to like life shit, they don't know how to deal with that. They don't actually know how to develop themselves and navigate through what's going on internally because we've all, as dancers, we use dance to escape from our shit. So that's when there needs to be the connection of, to me, dance is actually very feminine based because it's creative, it's flow, it's like connection. But I also believe that when you have a style, when you have form, it's got power, like, power, strength, the masculine aspect of movement in there. And that's why I'm so drawn to Krump, because it's got both.
Right.
And it's like extremely vulnerable. Like, it's really the only dance that you can look any way, you can cry, and it be welcomed. So it's been huge for me. It's been huge.
It definitely has a very powerful look to it. It's
Mm-hmm.
Most of you haven't seen it. It's not like, ballet movements. It's very like strong, powerful moves, like a
Yeah.
very like aggressive, like
Yeah.
movements that are associated with it. So I totally understand what you're saying.
Mm.
When you think about how you use this in your kind of you said mindset and movement coach. So how do you take what you're doing with dance and how do you help people as far as, as a mindset and movement coach? What does that look like? If we were going to be working together, how might
Mm-hmm.
you use those ideas and tie it into me, or helping me kind of, if I needed a coach in that capacity?
Yeah, for sure. Dope question. And thank you for asking it. So mindset aspect is the reflections, right? The life stuff, where and why you think the way that you think, why you believe the stories that you believe. We delve into that with the tools and all the things. And, if if there's a block, or if there's, a traumatic experience that you have to relive, I get you to move. Not through, not in a style, none of that stuff. Like, Krump comes after the movement piece. Reason being is because we all need to move. We are movers by nature. And, being on the computer all the time, being inside gaming, and, just being on the phone all the time, or whatever the case is, we lose that. That's why people need to exercise. Dance is exercise, creativity, and all the things. So that's how I use it in a coaching sense. And it's really getting you in tune with your body. That's the main thing that I guide men through, is like, what does it feel like? And I guide them through even like embodiment practices of who they want to be, like, get into a meditative trance sort of state, put on some music, and then have them act out slash embody or be in the energy of what they want to be. So as an example, you want to, like, what's something that you want to be? Who do you want to be in like a year from now?
Me, I want to be up on stage talking to thousands of people in a
Yep.
motivational capacity.
Okay, dope. So one of the things that I would do if we were working on that specifically is get you to close your eyes, feel into that energy, be that energy, and then I'll put on some music and you act out what you would do in that space, right? And this is where my facilitation is extremely unique, because I really get you to storytell. I know how to storytell through movement. So are you holding a mic? Is the mic here? Do you have to put on the mic? You know what I mean? Boom, like show the mic here and then start speaking. And like, can you just stand there in like a Superman pose and just like really be in that energy, and everyone's just like, yeah, Dennis, go. Can you feel that? Can you move through that and just be like that's me, and like really embody that energy so that it amplifies and the universe goes, it's just signaling to the universe like, yo, this guy is serious right now. And then it's about getting out of that practice and then taking the action, which is something that the action piece is something that we both would work on and co-create on, and I would just hold you accountable to it. And if you ever, you know, run into resistance or whatever it is, then we look at why, and then we can move through that if it's necessary.
Right.
Um, so yeah, bro, that's brief.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense to me. The Superman pose resonates with me. I do that before I start a podcast all the time. I kind of take a couple deep breaths, like I do for 2 minutes, and
Yep.
it just gets me in a headspace like there's nothing that I can't accomplish now. And for me, one of the biggest hurdles that I overcame after starting the podcast, initially I did it where it was a little more tampered in nature, where I did it like I was a principal. I would talk like, okay, I'm going to talk today about resiliency. Here's a quote by, John Wooden about resiliency. And then I would say the quote, I would, give 4 bullet points about what you can do, say another quote, and then wrap it up in 12 minutes. And my younger brother was like, dude, you got some good stories to tell, you have a way of connecting with people. You got to stop being so fucking tight ass, dude. You got to like loosen up. Like you can't fit a dime between your cheeks, man. Like calm down and just open up and be yourself. And to me, that was one of the things I was able to do. And while it doesn't come comfortably to me, it's something that I work on. I think back to the dance part of it. So you'll get a kick out of this. When I was a principal, I would do these challenges for the kids, right?
Yeah.
It was usually around, if we brought in a certain number of canned food goods, like it would be to donate to a shelter or something like that. Then it would be like I would do some kind of a challenge. I would, they would get to pick whatever it was. So there were times I would dye my hair a color. I mean, I grew a mustache, like a cheesy ass porn star mustache. I mean, I can grow Abe Lincoln beard. My mustache isn't that good, so I grew a mustache. But a couple of things I had to do was either sing or dance. So the song I had to sing was I sang Taylor Swift, "We Are Never Getting Back Together," in front of like 500 people. And I've done a couple dances. One of them, if you've ever seen the movie Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah.
So I did the dance at the end of that movie. I did that in front of all the kids in the school. And then I did the Thriller dance. I did the Thriller dance in front of the kids too. And I was the Napoleon Dynamite dance. I would practice. I would go in my basement. I would have to drink like 2 beers just to practice, just to like get into a space where I was like comfortable moving around. But I'll tell you what, it was one of those moments where kids that were in the school at the time, they're like, "Mr. Ronaldo, do you remember when you did that dance on stage in front of everyone?" And they didn't know that I was doing it either. I just came out there and did it. And I was like, that was like the most scared I've ever been. But they're like, "You killed it, man. You freaking killed it." But that's what I think. Like getting in that space, you're just like, all right, deep breath. I got this shit. And then go and do it.
Yep, 100%, bro. And like even as a professional dancer, traveling around the world, battling and exchanging with all these crazy dancers, like the creators of Krump and like the best in the world and stuff, it's still somewhat. I think now I'll be totally fine because I've done it already. But like whenever we're in a new experience, it is inevitable that we're gonna feel some sort of anxiety. And it's just about moving, like acknowledging the anxiety and saying thank you and shifting or reframing the anxiety to be excitement instead. And just go in with that type of energy and just be like, yeah, fuck, like stuff this. I'm just going to go in and do the thing and just have fun. That's something that I've been really focused on in my dancing and just in life in general, is having more play in my space, in my being. And how can I say this? Like, yeah, even with my clients, bro, I get them to do weird, silly things because I think it's super necessary.
This past year, I spent a lot of time driving with my kids back and forth between Delaware River and the Jersey Shore. It was we did a lot of traveling, especially during the winter time, and we'd be in the car together. And what we would do is each one of us would take like 10, 15 minutes, and whatever we wanted to listen to, we would put on. But there were no barriers, and we just sang or did whatever in the car. Like, and my kids are 16, 13, and 10. But we got goofy as hell in the car, but it was just
Yeah.
this moment where we were able to just let down any barriers that existed. And I think about when I'm the most me, it's like when I'm driving on a road with the windows down and I am just rocking out to some shit. I'm either like I
Yeah.
grew up on like, one, I grew up on classic rock from my dad and my mom.
Yeah.
So that stuck with me. I grew up in the 90s, was, my formative years of music. So I listened to a lot of like alternative music in the 90s, but also like a lot of like 90s rap. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I
Yeah.
listened to Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre, and like I was
Mhm.
even thinking as you were talking about music, I'm like, man, I could like bust out Vanilla Ice and like, Digital Underground Humpty Dance
Yeah.
right
Oh,
now. It's like I could grab the mic and just start like either
yeah.
one of those songs. But
Yeah.
it's one of those things where you just connect to that spot in your life and music. So was
Yeah.
there, you mentioned a lot of the music that you, hip hop was one of those things that really got you
Mhm.
in. Is there a song or two that you're like, man, this was something that really, like, I could think back to this spot in my life when I listened to this song and it really helped get me through some shit or help inspire me?
Hmm. Oof. Man, there's actually so many, bro.
Yeah.
Um, One that pops up to me straight away is Erykah Badu, Orange Moon. That got me through a lot. And then, shoot, it would probably be something by Pharaoh Monch, I reckon. Just not too sure exactly what track, but yeah.
But it's one of those things where if you heard that song, you could almost
Mhm.
like revisit that spot in your life.
Oh,
And I
100%.
remember when I heard this, and there are some things that'll bring you back into like a really negative emotion or sad space, and you could kind of process through, why do I feel that way? But
Yeah.
there's also things that, get you into a spot like, man, I was the best me during this. I have like my mix that I listen to when I'm training. Like I'm like, I need to have
Mhm.
these songs on, and just
Yeah.
the songs that I have on there are so random. They're just like, it's like AC/DC, and then there's what the hell? I have like Tribe Called Quest, and it's just like
Yeah.
it's all over the place. But
Yeah.
I love it.
It works. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome, bro.
So when I think about your journey, you mentioned, when you were like 13, 14 years old, how you, the shit that you were going through, and it was like
Mm.
this transformative spot in your life. So if you were like at this point where you are right now, if you were able to have a conversation with yourself at that age, your, early high school age, and you could give yourself a piece of advice, what would you tell yourself? Like, what would you say to yourself at, 15, 16 years old?
Oh, man, that is a big question, brother. I would say, I'm going to give you a sentence.
Okay.
Uh, let me tap in right now. First thing that I would say would be to follow your heart and do what feels right to you, right, and is right by you as well. Um, don't worry about other people's opinions. That's a huge one. Working through, yeah, I think that's what I would say. And love yourself. That love yourself. Show compassion to yourself is what I would say. Um, yeah, that is what I would say.
That's awesome, man. And that kind of got me a little bit choked up as you were saying that, because not only would I tell my 16-year-old self that,
Mm.
as a 44-year-old, I would tell my 43-year-old self that same fucking thing. As I went through
Yeah,
this
bro.
journey over the last year, I realized like I'm so worried about what other people think of me, and
Yeah.
how I'm perceived by other people, that I wasn't true to myself. I wasn't loving myself in any way, and so that really
Yeah.
hit home with me.
Oh,
What
man.
what an impressive thing to say to yourself. I mean, and it's one. I have a 16-year-old son. I'm going to tell him the same thing today. I'm going to tell him the same
Yeah.
exact thing you just said.
Yeah, bro. It's like being able to see that, like, I'm 28 now, going on 29, and you know, the past, man, 3 months have just been unbelievable in how much I've like uncovered and how much my partners reflected back to me and my coaches have reflected back to me, the amount of like programming, conditioning that has happened subconsciously, you know, and the stories that I've chosen to live by that have just played out for freaking 27 years, you know, and those are the, like what I expressed, what I would say to my 15-year-old self is the main things that I'm working on even now. Like, how can one actually show compassion and show love so that to oneself, so that they don't necessarily need it from anyone else. And if it is from anyone else, it's extra. And that creates trust in oneself as well. And I think that's just like the biggest lessons that I've learned in the last 3 months, bro, to show compassion to yourself and like deep gratitude, appreciation, acceptance, and love of oneself is like, if you've got that, you're pretty damn good.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, bro.
You mentioned the word gratitude, and it's something that I'm trying to practice on a regular basis. I mean, you hear all these things about, having a gratitude journal and this, and I think a
Mm.
lot of it is just like, like a checkoff list for people. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think what I'm trying to do is like really feel into that space where really appreciating just everything. Every morning that I wake up, I'm like, let me just be grateful that I am able to open my eyes and just see the world today. Like I'm
Yeah.
truly grateful for this. And you
Yeah.
realize the things that we take for granted and the things that we complain about too. And once
Mm-hmm.
you kind of take a step back and really, really think about that shit, then you could truly get into a space of gratitude in your life. Not just like, okay, here's my to-do list. I'm grateful for, my family, my friend, blah, blah, blah. And you just check it off the list. Like fully experiencing that emotion of gratitude is something that I'm trying to practice this year. And I think we all need to do that as well. So it really resonated
Yeah.
when you said that.
100%, bro. I do it in the morning and before I go to bed. I make sure, like, once I lie down, I'm just like breathing and I tap into the frequency of gratitude, you know, and just being able to like shift the cogs, like grease them up a little bit of gratitude and appreciation, because what you appreciate appreciates. And like going back to what you said about like the ticking the boxes, I had the gratitude list thing too, but even when I was writing it at the time, I was just doing it because I thought it was the right thing to do. But I wasn't even close to tapping into how deep I am in my gratitude practice now, and tapping into the frequency of doing it. Like I can easily tap into being in that space and embody that, even just speaking to you right now, so I don't need a gratitude journal anymore. Right. And it's just, yeah, man, like what you said, just being able to really sit back and feel what gratitude actually is to you. And, my coaches like Preston Smiles, Zion Kim, they have always said, like Preston says this a lot, is like, we're playing the inside out game, not the outside in game. So if you can feel, like all the gurus say this, and, people are always like, yeah, you have to feel the thing and then it'll manifest, or whatever the case is, but people don't even know how to do that, and it's just like you said, it's just trying to tick the box instead of actually being in it. And I feel like that's the problem with a lot of new age spiritual people. I was definitely one of those people too, and I don't want to like coin any terms or whatever the case is, but there's no, how can I say, like, my definition of being a spiritual person or being has completely changed now, you know. Um, but yeah, man, that's what it's about. Like really tapping into the energy of what it is that you want to be, feel, all of that stuff. It's a game changer.
You mentioned the word inward, and I
Mm.
just picked up the book, The Divine Comedy, and it like Dante's Inferno. That journey, I
Yeah,
started to do that again. It's a book that I read in college, and it's one of those like really impressive books that was written hundreds of years ago. But the premise is that Dante's going on a journey in like to find heaven, basically to find this enlightened spot in the world, and his guide
yeah.
Virgil is like, we need to go through hell first. There are all these
Mm,
circles or stages of hell that we're going to need to go through first. And the idea is like he needs to look inward and go through and challenge all the shit that he built up as a facade or a mask over the years, and he had to get through this point. And once he got to the center of the world, which is where the devil is basically, he got
yeah,
past it, and now he was on his way out. But to be
yeah,
able to get to that enlightened spot, he had to go inward and go through hell first. That's something that I've learned over the past year too, is if you're truly going to heal and going to move forward and kind of rebuild, if building men, I just love that kind of
yeah. It's
the
dope.
vision of kind of rebuilding something. You have to be
So
able to break it down and really take that deep, difficult, painful look inside and like really come to terms with it. And then be able to be like, okay, I'm going to forgive myself now, like all the mistakes that I've
yep.
made in my past, and to kind of help get through it, and then to be able to inspire others who are maybe going on the same difficult journey inward as well.
Yeah, yep, 100%, man. Totally feel you on that. And I think it's so important to have these conversations and, you know, be in be in the spaces where we are the facilitators of doing those things, because a lot of people don't know how to do it, especially at a young age. They're just going through life and if they don't necessarily have like aware parents, right? They don't know any better. Like for me, my parents didn't really know how to communicate that well, weren't emotionally intelligent, and they were, yeah, let's just leave it at that. That's already so much,
Yeah.
right? So much to deal with as an adult, to realize and sift through and dig through and get the gold and then get the shit, but get hurt in the process and, break a couple bones or whatever you need and then heal it again and then move forward. Um, so yeah, and a lot of it is to do with parenting, right? Let alone our environment, but parenting is like a whole nother thing, bro.
Yeah, it's
And
been
you're a parent
yeah,
yourself, so it's like,
yeah, I'm a parent of 3 kids, and it's an interesting thing, and it's they listen to what you say, but they watch what you do. And that's why I
mm,
decided, like, hey, listen, like any mistakes I made in my past, I need to make sure that I'm doing what's right. I'm acting in a way that my kids can look at what I'm doing and say, even like I might not want to be exactly that way, but I understand why he's doing that, and I understand why he's moving in this direction. And you
yeah,
mentioned communication with your parents. Communication is such
yeah,
an interesting thing to me. It's one thing that I speak
yeah,
with teachers around all the time, and I think it's the thing that causes most of the issues in the world is
yeah,
not understanding what communication is.
yeah,
Communication is not really the words that we're saying. Like when you take
yeah,
out the text of those words, that's a
yeah,
really, really small percentage of the communication. It's how we say what we say and what
yeah,
we do when we say what we say. So it's the
yeah,
paraverbal communication. It's the tone of our voice, the volume of our voice, and the cadence at which we say those words. And then it's our body language, it's our facial expression, it's our posture, it's our movement. That's going to communicate most of what we're saying. So we need to be
hmm,
really cognizant about how we're communicating something to other people, and then what we're looking like when we're doing it. I could say something to you, and I'm a big dude, I'm 6'4", 220. If I'm saying it in a way that's like looking down over someone, it's communicating this aggressive posture and stance. The words that
right,
I'm saying are not what I'm saying. I'm saying that I am in this powerful pose over you right now. So I
yeah,
tell teachers all the time, you really have to be cognizant of that nonverbal and the paraverbal communication when you're speaking to people. So,
Mm,
and when you think about your parents, I think that people do the best that they can with what they know. So,
100%.
I even think about my own parents, and they taught me so many things about communication over the years. And I look back and say, I'm going to take these little lessons that they've given me about communication, and I'm going to like really hone in on, what lesson I can learn from that and how I can learn more and then help my own children moving forward.
Yeah, 100%, bro. I don't have any kids, but when I do, like, I know that there's going to be so much like of that, you know? And I think every kid in some way, shape, or form doesn't want to carry on or have certain traits of their parents still linger, you know? And it's important to even know how to move and navigate through just that idea of carrying something from a generation or generations before you. Um, I'm reading this book, bro. I think you'll really enjoy it. It's called Healing the Shame That Binds You, if you haven't read it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, check it out, man. It's such a powerful read, and it's basically around having healthy shame. We as humans need to have healthy shame. That's what makes us human. You know, that's like the humble pie, basically. And yeah, the author just goes through so many different aspects of your upbringing and how that creates shame. So something as simple as, a lot of parents, like for me personally, in personal experience, my parents always used to say, you better eat. You have to eat your breakfast. You have to eat your lunch. You have to eat your dinner. And it's just like, even if I'm not hungry, right? Even if the kid isn't hungry, and that creates shame as well, because you're putting them in a state of they don't necessarily have control. And if they don't eat, you're going to punish them with, you're not allowed to have ice cream, or you're not allowed to play with the toys. Like, you need to eat. That already in itself creates shame, and then it becomes normalized. Like that's technically trauma, right? It ends up being normalized, and then you think that everything's okay, yet you go through life when you get older with these habits you don't even understand. And then you have to go back to it and be like, what the hell? Like, I was actually, abused in a way that made me create these habits. And I didn't even know. Like, one of my coaches, like, I was sharing with them a little bit about my upbringing, and, in the Asian household, you have like wooden spoons, and I've had chili put in my mouth for being rude and all this type of thing. And like, my coaches were just like, yo, that is trauma on top of trauma, abuse on top of abuse. And it's like, yeah, well, that's the Asian thing. It's normalized. Like, the trauma is normalized, but we also need to normalize speaking about trauma as well, because it is normal to go through. And I think, that's what I think why what we do, what you do with Building Men is such a powerful thing, because we're speaking about this stuff, making it normal to be like, yeah, this is the shit that I went through.
Yep.
And now, like, being able to understand it and be there for young kids. Like, I've mentored young kids. I still do mentor young kids, and I love it. And I'm there for them in a way where I just give them more provoking things to think about, and just sort of reframing things, and putting things in a different light, right? Because we all carry baggage, but there's baggage that we hold that we can unload so that the load is lighter. Like, life is never going to be easy, but it can be lighter. You can do things with more ease rather than always be pulling or struggling for something. And that's why, man, especially in men's work, it's so necessary.
And I'll take it all the way back to our initial conversation about the Krump dancing.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to formulate kind of everything that I'm thinking based on what you just said, to try to normalize young men and men feeling a certain way and feeling that level of vulnerability where they can talk about issues that are really challenging. And maybe we're kind of experiencing the same thing, but society is kind of putting this tamp down, or this blanket over us, saying like, we don't really talk about that shit. We don't talk about, growing up watching porn. We don't talk about, like feeling this inferiority complex. We don't talk like all these
Mhm.
things that are going through this looking glass self idea, that you're not
Right.
worthy, you're not. And a lot of young men and men are feeling these things, but there's not a space that's safe for them to feel like they can talk about these things. And so to
Mhm.
pull it back to Crump, I think what you're doing is you're allowing people to be able to experience something that maybe feels uncomfortable for them. Like I think about, all right, say if I were to, join your class or get in the cage, and it would feel
Yeah.
so uncomfortable for me initially, but it's one of
Yeah.
those things where like you have to kind of take that step and be like, I need to be able to let my guard down and do this physical movement, but in the same way, let my guard down and be able to talk about those things that are really struggling, that I'm struggling with, or that are really I'm having cognitive dissonance about that. It's kind of racking
Right.
my brain and I don't understand how to do it. So creating that safe space for people to talk and then also to move is
Yeah.
really the beauty in regards to what you're doing that I'm just in awe of right now.
Yeah. Thank you, bro. I appreciate that. And I receive that fully. Um, it's totally true. Everything that you said is just like so on point. Um, we need to speak and we need to move the energy somehow. So whoever's listening to this, regardless of your whatever your outlet is, make it also creative, make it also expressive. Like to me, I was just speaking to my partner about this too. Like, yes, gym, yes, fitness, yes, all of that stuff. But it's like, are you even like, do you actually like you can even answer this question is like when you do train, would you say that you're expressing yourself?
There are times that I feel like I am. Not all
Mm.
the time.
Okay, go.
Sometimes I'm just checking off a box. Like I have to get it done. I have a couple
Mhm.
like goals that I set for myself that I want to
Yeah,
be able to accomplish. So I'm just like
yeah,
training to check off those goals. There are times that I feel like I started sprinting. It's been such a huge thing for me. And when I do that, I just like it's like I feel like this like emotion of I'm just me just like getting after and doing something that I really want to do. And the fact that
yeah,
I'm 44 and I could still, I don't know, I feel like I could, run faster than some people that are 15 years younger than me right now.
yeah.
Or if I had to like chase down a robber, I feel like I could hang. I could probably catch up to most people right now. So that's where I feel like I am fully like expressing myself in that way. Yeah.
Yeah, that's dope. That's so awesome, man. Um, yeah, and going back to what you were saying about like connecting the two mindset and movement thing is like for me growing up and even like now I'm getting better at vocalizing and structuring the sentences because I'm aware enough of what I've gone through that I can do that. But for younger men and even older, for example, that may not even know how to express vocally what they want to say, that's where the movement, the creativity comes into play because you don't need to say anything, right? I can teach you how to say things without saying anything. Like dance is a language as well. And I think a lot of people skip that. Um, to me, dancers speak and not, they don't just tap into an energy, if that makes sense. They speak, they share something, they tell you something, they story tell, whatever the case is. And like going back to what a mover and a dancer is like you need to express and tell me something so I can feel you, I can understand you, and you're letting something out. And then it's so much easier to talk about after. Like, for example, in Krump, you know, we have beef battles. So if we have a tiff with someone, it's like, yo, let's battle, bro. I'm gonna get off on you so bad. Like, that's the term that we use. And, you know, like, the reason why it's called that is because we're literally getting off the baggage and all the things. And after that, that's when we talk. You know, we move, we say what we want to say on the dance floor, get all the beefiness out, all the rowdiness, all the potential anger or frustration or whatever. And sometimes it can get physical, not like punch each other physical, but just like grabbing and, you know, holding onto shirts and all that type of thing. But man, that's just how it is. And it's accepted in Krump. It's like such a beautiful thing. Like, you see, you must see like Sacred Sons do their work and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. So very similar thing, you know, where they hold the man in the middle, and the man's just like trying to go through their, you know, through their thing, and, you know, rage and all that stuff, and just letting it out. It's the same concept, just in a creative outlet. That's what we do. It's not just about the motion, it's about creativity. We're doing it in an artistic way. So yeah, bro, it's a big thing, and I'm really wrapping my head and my being around how I can formulate that in a super understandable, simple way, so that everyone is like, I'm ready for that right now. You know, so
I'll tell
yeah,
you,
man,
the
where I'm at.
the beef battles. I think I'm going to start
Yeah.
implementing that with my own kids when they get into an argument about whatever it is. Like, listen, we're going to have a beef battle right now. So like, get ready to move. We're about to dance this shit off right now. Get on the dance floor.
Yo,
Get in the cage. Let's go.
do it, bro.
Yeah,
I would love to actually see that, bro.
my kids think I'm fucking crazy anyway. So this is something that they're going to be like, all right, Dad, what's the next thing we're doing here? So you mentioned before, Ian, like the last question I'm going to ask you, I could talk to you for 5 days. I mean, we just met each other like over an hour ago. We just met each other. I feel like I've known you already for years. So
Right. Yeah.
I would definitely love to have you back on in a couple months or whatever. And I'm going to put it out there in the universe. There's going to be a time where you and I are in the same space in a cage, and you're going to be doing some Krump shit together. I'm going to put it out there right now.
Oh yeah, bro. Let's
definitely
go.
want that at some point.
Hell
The
yeah.
last question I'll ask you is, you talked before about you can go back 12 years and talk to yourself, or whatever, 13 years, talk to yourself as a 16-year-old. What advice would you give? And your advice was like, don't give a shit what people think. Like, be authentic to yourself, love yourself, that idea. So now fast forward 13 years, 12 years. So now you're like 40, 41 years old.
Yeah.
Now you're at that point, looking back at Ian Demello at 28, 29.
Yeah.
What was your journey like in those 12 years? Where are you? You said, where do I see myself? I'm going to be up on stage. Tony Robbins is going to introduce me. I got the TR hat on right now. Why not?
Yeah.
That I like want to be able to do. So if you're at that point 12 years from now, tell yourself, like, what did you do over the last 12 years of your life, and where are you now?
Oh man, 12 years? Shit. I'm going to say by at maximum the 5-year mark, I'm going to be working with top tier athletes and increasing their movement and their bodily internal connections so that they can perform even better. So there's that. I'll be emceeing on stages. Like, I want to be in spaces like Tony Robbins, and instead of putting on music that they don't know the artist to, I want to be the person facilitating the energy and the hype and stuff, bring that hip hop element, and running my own shows, facilitating my own workshops and, immersions like the cages and all that type of thing. What else would I be doing?
Will you be?
Yeah, I will be 100%. I would just be shizzle.
The fact that you say shizzle and dope, it's one of my favorite things about you. It brings me back to 1998. I'm just like,
For shizzle. Yeah, man. I'm just gonna be up there, bro. I'm gonna be creating, or I am right now, creating a whole new avenue for men and women to express themselves in a safe container, um, to make this world a better place, bro. That's what I'm gonna be doing. And I'm gonna be living my best life with all the things that I desire, and be around brothers like yourself doing exactly the same thing. And we're all killing shit.
is that 2026? Well, let's look at it right now. We'll get our calendar straight so you and I could be up on a stage somewhere together with that large group of people. Sound good?
Yes, that sounds amazing. I am down. It's out there.
It's out there.
Universe knows.
Well, Ian Demello,
No,
it has been an absolute pleasure to talk to you for the last hour plus. I feel like like I said, I've known you for years. You're just an
yeah.
amazing human being. I'm truly inspired by your story. I am so happy that I'm able to share your story with the people that are following along with Building Men. So tell us where we can find you and how we can get in touch with you.
Yeah, dope. So Instagram is the main biz right now. So Ian Demello with a double L at the end, and an underscore. That's where you can find me on Instagram. TikTok, same thing. YouTube, I have, if you are down for some, I call it metaphysical hip hop. Um, Find me at multidimensional MC on YouTube or SoundCloud. And yeah, just be ready for some high vibrational hip hop bars, uplifting, get you in the groove, dancing, all that jazz. Yeah, man, that's where you can find me. Don't be afraid to reach out, ask me anything. I'm here to serve you guys and girls. So much love. Thank you for having me, bro. This was dope. And I want to do the same thing for you because I want to know more about you too. So
Absolutely.
yeah, man.
So what I'll do is, as I posted, I'll put all that information in the show notes. I'll post all of this information on Instagram as well for people to reach out and connect with Ian and Catalyst Creator.
Yes.
So to get in touch with Building Men, it's building.men on Instagram, buildingmencoach@gmail.com, and Facebook, it's Building Men Podcast. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Ian,
Mm-hmm.
such a pleasure, man. I'm truly blessed to know you now. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and we will see you next time on Building Men.
Peace.
Stop recording.